There we go. 8:59 a.m. Eastern, 7:59 a.m. Central, and it's a minute before we begin Dynamic Friday, which is the moment that I push all the buttons and get the things working properly so we can broadcast today's training not just on Free Conference Call HD, but live across social media. Why do we do that? So that you can receive the same training and routine and structure and system that you enjoy throughout the course of the week. And the rest of the world can see what we do and hopefully take a piece of that information and make their week a little bit better. So if you're watching right now on social media, drop a comment below and say hi, let me know that you're here, and you are welcome to engage in the conversation. If you are listening on Free Conference Call HD and headed out into the field for a successful conclusion to your week, I greatly appreciate you being here. If you catch this at some point in the future, thanks for watching, and hopefully you take something from today's conversation that makes you a little bit better and a little bit more profitable. Let's also make sure that we engage, invite, and encourage those that are involved in your daily communication to get on today's call, to get on today's conversation, and to make sure that they end this week as successfully, as motivated, and as profitable as possible. You know, we started this week pretty successful, right? We started this week with a hot Monday that carried directly into a solid Tuesday, a great Wednesday, a solid Thursday. Don't let the rest of this week get away from you, because I'm going to open today's conversation talking about persistency and tenacity. I'm going to be talking about persistency and tenacity. We're going to talk to Adam in the middle half of today's conversation about his sales week. And then we're going to turn the mic over to him where he talks about finding business in ways outside of leads. We're going to give you Dynamic Friday in 60 minutes or less. So stay on, stay tuned, and stay engaged so that you can take one thing away from today's conversation that makes you more money. You know, before we get into Adam's conversation about his week and how to find business outside of leads, I think it's important to understand that it requires persistency, you know it, and tenacity to find any kind of business. I'm going to get practical with you in just a moment. I've worked hard over the course of the last several weeks to be both mindset and practical oriented. So I promise we're going to get into the weeds with that too. I think we're oftentimes mistaken as well on how much effort it actually takes to make six figures or more. Plain and simple. It's really easy to make an average living. And then with an average living, it's hard to get by. It's really easy to get a minimum wage job and make nothing. To make the kind of money this business affords you the opportunity to do, it's hard and requires a lot of effort. I heard a legend in the industry say to me in a phone call this week that he believes that most agents are lazy. I don't think anybody here is lazy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on a conference call, StreamYard, or social media trying to educate yourself and preparing for a day in the field. But there are a lot of agents out there that may not necessarily be lazy, but misunderstand how much persistency and tenacity it takes to make six figures or more. Why is that? Because most of us out there, as soon as we have a little bit more money in the bank than we need to pay this week or this month's bills, kind of take our foot off the gas. How do we correct that? We have to remind ourselves daily, every morning, right before you hit that button to dial in to the conference call line or to watch us on social media or to prepare for your day, however you do so. You have to remind yourself that you're in control of the outcome. Plain and simple. Look at it from my perspective. I control how many recruit conversations I have over the course of a 7-day period. I can control that. I can do better with that, but I can control that. I can control expediting somebody through a simple 4-step process to get selling and to see if this opportunity is correct for them. I can control resources, carriers, comp, training, and technology to make you, to provide you what you need to go into the field. I can't control what happens next. You can control how much you invest in leads weekly. Is it 300, 800, 1200? You control it. I can control how many leads come out in return, but you have to put the money into the machine. You or I in the field or on the phones can control how many days you dedicate to selling and how many hours in that day that your full focus is on selling. You can control how many presentations you give in a week. You really can. You can control all the necessary aspects of this business to win, and nobody else can stop you. Let's make it a little bit more practical because we're going to keep today's conversation to 60 minutes or less, I promise. Let's make it more simple and more practical. Focus on winning one presentation at a time while keeping your eyes 5 steps forward on your overall business. In many cases, people say work in or work on your business. You got to do both at the same time. When you get into the home or you get on the phone, take enough time to find all the opportunity in the home, but not too much time that you move in. You know that one too. We talked about that throughout the course of the week. We talked about not just blowing through a lead, but digging a little bit deeper and taking a little bit of extra time to find quality business and not make it so cheap and transactional. You also need to be a little bit more persistent in the business because this business is about the numbers. I saw a debate on social media recently where it said, is it really about the numbers? Yes, I think it is. Because I had an agent recently voice some level of frustration about leads and production. It's a common point of frustration, right? Leads, production, money, you get it. But let's take a more practical and numbers-based approach to the emotion of being frustrated about leads and production. Now, mind you, these numbers can vary slightly between people, but I think these numbers to be pretty conservative. This agent who was frustrated over leads and production purchased 51 Facebook leads over the course of a 30-day period, verifiable to the fact. 51 leads over 30 days. Awesome. That's better than the 0 they purchased the month before. With 51 leads over the course of 30 days, you or an appointment setter could set conservatively 38% of those leads into an appointment. If you're not hitting a 38% set rate, either the team needs to do better or you need to do better, or we need to talk about the skills to get there. But let's just call it 38%. If you set 38% of 51 leads, that's 19 presentations. Now, over the course of a 1-week period, perfect. First problem I noticed here, over the course of a 30-day period, that's only 4 presentations a week. That's not going to cut it. That's going to cut yourself out of the business quicker than you expected and obviously lead to frustration. Now, let's just take it a little bit different. 51 leads, 38%, 19 presentations, and a 20 to 25% close ratio in face-to-face sales. If you're selling over the phone and you're closing 10%, you're doing fine. In the field, you should be closing 20 to 25% of the qualified people you're face-to-face with. Now, 20 to 25% of that 19 equals 3 to 5 applications. That's the pure numbers of it. It's enough for 1 week of sales. It's enough to survive 1 week and move yourself into the next. It's not for a month. So what do we take away from these numbers? These numbers also prove something really, really interesting that I have believed but now can factually prove. That you need approximately 3 to 4 times the amount of Facebook leads for face-to-face sales to achieve the same results you would versus direct mail. Let me be more clear. If you're purchasing 20 direct mail, you probably need to be working 60 Facebook leads to get the same statistical results. I know this isn't super exciting. This may not be super motivating, but it should be to somebody because these numbers can't be proven wrong. 20 Facebook leads over the course of a 7-day period is not going to statistically equal 15 presentations. It just can't. 60 absolutely can. So here's your takeaway of the numbers. Here's what I want you to internalize practically today before we transition into Adam's week, before we transition into the back half of today's conversation. And if you're watching today's conversation, drop a comment and let us know that you're here. Here's your takeaway numbers that I want you to compare your numbers against this week. 38% of your leads, regardless of what kind of leads they are, presuming these are fresh leads, mind you, not leads older than my son, 38% of those leads should be setting an appointment, either with you or by the team or both. Don't care. It's just the number. 20% of those presentations should be resulting in some type of business. If over the course of the next 7 days, you run that number and your numbers are not hitting that benchmark, you and I need to be on a training together and talking specifics on how to improve the results. There's no emotion to it. It's the pure numbers of our business. If you want to go out and write 20,000 next week, run the numbers on 38% and 20%, and you can do it. So quick, before we get into the next part of today's conversation, I also want to give you a preview on what we're talking about training-wise next week. So if you're watching and you want to be engaged in that kind of training, you want access to this kind of conversation, you want to learn more about what we do, you're going to hear what next week's trainings are going to be. Hey, if you're on our call and you're in our agency, you're getting a preview as well of what we're going to talk about next week. And if you want a specific topic covered, always just let me know. So Monday, we're going to talk about how appliance delivery has something to do with final expense. It's going to be a weird combination of the two, but I'm going to tell you how patience and investment and how all that comes together and has something to do with final expense. Tuesday, I know somebody wants to hear this topic. Tuesday, we're going to talk about how to sell graded and modified and tragically, on a small percentage of the cases, guaranteed issue business. How to sell that business and not make them think they're waiting years to get covered, but months. When to sell those type of plans and what carriers to pick to sell those specific type of plans. That's going to be on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to get into some practical tips on what I took away from a 10-hour day in the field on Tuesday. Thursday, you guys are going to want to hear this topic. We're going to talk about Medicare and Medicare post OEP. OEP is an awesome time of year to get additional business on top of whatever you did during annual enrollment. But after we exit OEP, the weather gets nice and the SEPs disappear, it's going to get a little bit weird. But we're going to plan, we're going to prepare, and we're going to write just as much business. And we're working on a new hybrid lead type for our direct mail agents that actually combines both marketing pieces into one. So whatever you're doing in the home, whatever time of year you're in the home, you're going to be able to be a successful person to that client. And then 7 days from now, we'll be back here on another Dynamic Friday, sharing tips and tricks from the week, insights and observations, a little mindset, a little motivation, and plenty of practical tips and tricks. So remember the numbers. 38% of your leads should be setting an appointment with you, with the team, or with both. 20% of those presentations should result in you selling something. I don't care what that something is. And if those numbers aren't your numbers over the next 7 days, there's no harm, there's no foul, there's no emotion. There's just room for improvement. Adam, I'm excited to hear about your week. You bought 40 leads last Friday. You spent in excess of $1,500 on your business, and you've been writing business all week. So before we get into writing business outside of the leads, let's take the next 10 or 12 minutes and talk about the business you wrote on the leads this week.
Yeah, I had a pretty good week. Excuse me. Yeah, I took 40 leads, just really wanted to try to boost some production this week. I've been consistently ordering like 20 leads a week, and honestly, I just don't feel like it's been enough. I really want a full schedule when it comes to having appointments set. And like I said, I mean, I've always primarily just door knocked, but like we've said a couple years ago, kind of got back into or started to get into the appointment setting. And I think we get a little bit spoiled with it. It's nice when you have a full day full of appointments set. The thing is, I mean, my goal is trying to figure out how to have a full 3 days worth of appointments set, because, I'll have 1 day full of appointments and then the next couple days still pretty dry. Even with 40 leads, I had 8 appointments set for me on Tuesday, but then Wednesday and Thursday were just a little bit less. Which, well, actually really, really pretty minimal. I had maybe 1 or 2 appointments each of the following 2 days. So Tuesday was an easier day, honestly, because of course I had the appointment set. And then Wednesday and Thursday was just a little bit more of a grind, just doing whatever I could to find that business. Had plenty of leads to work. It's just a matter of putting that route together. And I think that's the difference, though, is that I think a lot of agents maybe will just focus on the appointment setting. And then if they don't have appointments set, they can't get out of their house. They don't go out. They don't work the leads. They don't put a route together. They don't want to just go up and knock on somebody's door. I mean, a good portion of the business I wrote this week, I would not have written had I not been door knocking leads. So the appointment setting was great. Honestly, they did a great job on Tuesday with setting those appointments. I wish I would have done a better job with making more sales off of all of the appointments that they set for me, because out of 8 appointments, I only wrote 2 applications. Hopefully I have some more coming from it, but that's my own fault. I guess I should have done a better job to be able to convert more of the people that I sat down with on Tuesday. So,
Real quick. I gotta
yeah,
cut in. I gotta cut in because something you said there is so valuable it can't be missed. First off, you've proven something that I've proven with multiple people before, that it is physically impossible. Somebody proved me wrong, to go out on a 9 appointment day and come home empty handed. It's physically impossible. So if you know that you need to write business next week, I can guarantee you a way to write business. Adam, I put an agent in the field who is probably the most underperforming agent, but a beautiful human I've ever seen. And even on a 9 appointment day, a year ago, they wrote 2 applications. It works. And what it does is it gets you in the field, it gets the momentum started, it gets you emotionally ready to have an exciting day. And if the rest of the week nothing else happens on the appointment schedule, they didn't do their job. But that's that initial boost that everybody needs, somewhere to be, a reason to be there, and an exciting way to start their week. So 9 appointments, a guaranteed way to write production. There's your guys' first tip for social media.
Yeah, it was a great way to kind of get the week started, because it was pretty nonstop. I mean, 9 appointments. We're talking about appointments on the hour, starting at 9 in the morning. I think my last appointment was at 6 o'clock at night, and that's what I like. I like having that full schedule. I love having the first appointment at 9 a.m., the last appointment. Like, if they could only set me 2 appointments for the day, 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock would be perfect, because then the rest of the day, I'm stuck out there. I'm already out in the field. I already have other people that I need to try to catch up with. So it's going to keep me out there. It's not like I'm going to work that 9 o'clock appointment and then go home and sit around all day and then go back for the 6 o'clock. It gets you out there. But yeah, Tuesday was great. Had plenty of people to see. I ran into stuff that I just don't run into a whole lot. I mean, I had a guy that I could not get over the bank draft issue. Like, the guy already had 2 life insurance policies. They were already taking money out of his account. He wanted to go with another policy with me, and it would have been over $1,200 in premium. I mean, it was a big one that I wasn't able to get. And like, I'm even going through the application, asking him like who his beneficiary is going to be. Like, that name sounds familiar. And his sister had a policy with me. So, like, his sister has a policy with me. She knows I'm a trustworthy guy. She knows I'm not going to, screw her or anybody else over when it comes to, taking out policies. She knows I'm doing the right thing. Even tried giving her a call, couldn't get a hold of her. And his neighbor across the street already had a policy with me. I was like, Vernon across the street? He's like, yeah, I walk his dog every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's had insurance with me for a while. And, same thing. Like, you'd think, like, if he knew that other people had insurance with me, that the whole bank draft issue shouldn't be an issue. And sounded like he had some issues with like fraud lately with his debit card, which happens. I mean, I get fraud alerts every once in a while. You make a purchase, and then all of a sudden someone gets a hold of your information or whatever. And what I was trying to explain to the guy was, that's why we want your account and routing number, because that information is much harder to get, where your debit card is much easier. That debit card number is a lot easier to steal. And that's why if you ever lose your debit card, well, that's why the insurance companies, most of them don't accept the debit cards. They want the account routing, because you're not going to lose your account routing number. You lose your debit card. Well, that account number is going to change, but your bank account number is never going to change. So that's why we ask for the account routing number. But anyways, yeah, I couldn't get anywhere with the guy. Like I said, that's probably the first time in a year, I bet, that the bank draft was even an issue. Like, I just don't run into it anymore. People are just kind of know that that's just how it goes. If you want to take out a policy, it's got to come through the bank. That's just how it is.
You know what he was, though? He was what I could call an agent killer. And these exist out there in the industry, and you guys that are giving the presentations and working the business need to identify them expeditiously. There's actual agency killers too. There's people out there that roll debt and blame their upline for their own issues. But let's talk in the field. Agent killers are people that would stop Adam from seeing more people the rest of the week. He'd be so upset, so emotional, so distracted, so bummed out that he would kill his week. And you have to be willing to see those situations as what they are. You can't help everybody. And someone that doesn't want your help isn't your fault if you've done your job correctly. Don't allow an agent killer like that to kill the rest of your week, because he's talking about what's happening Tuesday morning. But he still went out all of Tuesday, all of Wednesday, and all of Thursday and wrote plenty of business where most people would have been shot dead on the spot right there.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a long game. It's not a short game. You can't focus on just the one day or the one person that you sit down with. You got to look forward to the next person that you're going to go see, because all it takes is that one person to let you in their house, and your whole day or week can completely turn around. So no, I mean that was Tuesday. I think I still wrote other business that day. Yeah. Tuesday night I wrote another one. So yeah, I ended up writing 2 on Tuesday. One of them was 1,100, a little over 1,100 in premium. She already had 2 policies that she actually had just recently taken out. And nothing against the telesales, but I think that unfortunately, I think there's a lot of maybe just new people in the telesales, because everybody wants to be in telesales. It's so much easier. So everybody wants to be in telesales. All these new agents, I just don't think that half of them know what they're doing when they're trying to sell something over the phone. This lady had a Corebridge guaranteed issue policy, and then she had, I forget the name of the other company that she had. But anyways, the other policy was okay. I mean, it was an immediate death benefit, but then she also took out this Corebridge, which was a guaranteed issue. She wasn't covered for 2 years on it. The lady was in good health. I mean, she had really no health issues or any concerns that would put her into like a modified policy. And I was very confident in writing that one. I wrote her. So actually, I replaced both those 2 policies, and she took out, one with an immediate death benefit with me with American Amicable for $1,167 in annualized premium. And then the other sale that night was my last appointment of the day, the 6 o'clock appointment. And this one, it was kind of weird. I show up at the house, and she's like, "This isn't my place. The owner doesn't really want anybody in the house." I was like, "All right, well, if you want to, it's freezing out." She wanted me to just kind of go over stuff with her on the front porch. It's like freezing. It's like 10 degrees, like probably negative 10 degrees out. It's windy out.
Bad.
And she's wanting me to like do a presentation on the front porch, freezing my butt off. I'm like, how about we go out to the car? She's like, "Yeah, no, I don't really feel comfortable with that either." Like, whatever. So I told her, "All right, well, listen, if you're serious about this, give me a couple minutes. I'm gonna go park, and I'll just give you a call, and we'll go through this over the phone." And figure at that point it's a 50-50 shot. She either answers the phone or she doesn't. And she answered the phone. We had a good conversation. She had taken out a policy a while back with Americo, like I'd say probably within the last 6 months. She took it out with Americo, and same thing. She had some health issues, but I was able to get her an immediate death benefit with Baltimore Life, and I was actually able to double her amount of coverage. So Americo, she was paying like $50 a month for a $5,000 policy. I was able to double that. I got her a $10,000 policy for the same price. So she was happy. So yeah, that was my Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning, I had a 9 a.m. appointment. This was a lead that I door knocked the prior week. And I almost felt like she was blowing me off on the initial door knock. She's like, "I just don't have time right now. How about you come back next Wednesday at 9 o'clock?" And this was like last Thursday, I think. So it's kind of like even at that point, for all I knew, she had a doctor's appointment that she knew about on Wednesday that she knew she wouldn't be there or something. So that's why she told me just come back Wednesday at 9 a.m. Anyways, I put it on my schedule. There was nothing else booked for that time. I showed up, and knock on the door, and she really didn't even remember that I was coming. And she's like, "Yeah, I just don't really think I'm interested in that. I know I mailed it in. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I'm just not interested." And I'm like, you already set the appointment with me. I already drove all the way to get here. It only take 10 minutes. How about we just sit down and I'll go through it real quick, and then I can take you off the list, whatever list we're talking about. I could take you off the list. She said, oh,
The
okay,
list.
sure. That
Yeah.
sounds good. So went in, went through the whole presentation. I guess she was interested because I ended up writing her a Transamerica over 900 annualized premium. And I also wrote her a Zing Medicare Advantage policy. So, so went from not interested to helping her with two things. So, but I guess that to me, that would just be an example of being persistent and not just giving up on your leads. And like I said, I was already there. Many agents, maybe when the person just said, you know what, never mind, I'm not interested, wouldn't have pushed any harder. They would have just been like, oh, okay, whatever, and
Yeah.
moved on to the next, like used to getting rejected. So let's just get rejected one more time.
Or even worse, they would have set an appointment for the next day and been no-showed and wasted 2 hours of their 45 hours of the week. Like
Yeah.
when people say to you what they're saying to you, what they're actually saying, I believe, as we're about to make this transition from free conference call HD to exclusively social media, Adam, what I think they're telling us, last tip I'm going to give on the conference call, is I'm actually very, very interested, and I'm guilty of being a very easy sale if you'll just try to sell me something. So what I'm telling you right now is I'm not interested, but what I'm really saying is I'll buy anything a good presentation presents to me. We're going to switch over to exclusively social media. Catch us live. And if not, have an outstanding day in the field. Remembering you can do whatever you want to do, and the business is out there to write it if you go out there and find it. Adam, let's talk beyond the leads or a little bit more about your week, because we're going to wrap this
real
at
quick.
10
Let's continue on
a.m.
what we were
as we
talking about real
promised,
quick.
give them Dynamic Friday in 60 minutes or less.
Okay, yeah, because what you were just saying there, Chris, what you said something about, repeat what you just said before we signed off on the other.
I was saying those folks that are saying they're not interested, they actually are very, very interested, and they're actually really, really, really easy sales. But that's their defense mechanism, because they know they're going to buy something if somebody presents it to them in an organized way.
Yeah, I think that's really what it was. And I think that, I don't know, maybe she was uncomfortable with someone showing up. But, once she finally realized, that I was all right, she let me in. I told her that I don't bite or anything. And and everything worked out fine. She actually, I think that was a direct express one. That's why I wrote it with the Transamerica. It was a direct express. And but like I said, yeah, it seemed like decent business. She didn't have any coverage. She needed it. And then I had a little alarm go off on my phone as I was walking back to my car, and it was a task reminder to call this client of mine that wanted to add to her coverage. So I'm like, what timing? I got a little bit of time. Let's give her a call, because the rest of my day was just going to be door knocking. So I called the lady, and yeah, I ended up writing over the phone. I mean, she was way out in Chicago. I didn't feel like driving an hour out of my way. She already knew me. And I ended up writing her like over almost 2,000 with American Amicable, just over the phone. So that was like one after another, wrote a pretty good one right after that. So that was good. That wasn't even off of a lead this week. That was just an existing policyholder that I had called that just said, I think it was like a call me in 6 months, and I think I might want to add to my coverage, and called her and, wrote her the M-Man. So then,
real quick, did you use, because an agent I know lost their contract with a carrier recently over a very similar situation, and these carriers do check, even though you don't think it. Did you use their text to sign, the voice recording signature? Did you email it to her? What telesales process did you use to compliantly close that sale?
I used the text to sign feature. I like it. I used to use the other feature where you'd have to call in and it would be like a recording where the agent had to read a script. And that worked out fine, but the text to sign is even easier. You just let them know that they're going to be receiving a text message. They get the text message. There's a verification code that they read to me. I plug the verification code into the e-app and then submit it. And then from there, they're able to move forward with going through the application. And then they just type their name in at the bottom. It's like not really a DocuSign. Yeah, they just type their name in at the bottom of the app. And then it shows up on my side that part's completed. It runs the RX and provides me with the decision. So pretty easy. Yeah, not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, these carriers can see where you are, and if you're not where you say you are, you're risking your carrier contract every single time you do that because it takes one consumer complaint, and before you know it, you're terminated. These carriers, as much as they're relationship based, they're going to protect their name, their legacy, their brand, their presence with the state, and you'll be cut off quicker than you expect if they catch you using the telesales process incorrectly. So that's what I got on that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an easy process. I mean, you couldn't, I don't know, I don't think with American Amicable you couldn't do the regular e-app uh remotely unless you were forging a signature or something.
Yeah, you could commit fraud,
Um
which is actually a criminal
yeah, I
offense,
mean,
and
that's it. I mean, because
commit
you have to
forgery.
sign on the app. So, I mean, unless you're just signing their name, which nobody should do, um,
That's illegal.
then yeah, I mean, it's heck, the text to sign is super easy. I mean, it's it takes a little bit. Maybe some people might be a little bit tougher. Maybe some of the older people that aren't great with technology. But if you're patient with them and you can walk them through the process, you can get it done. And I'm sure many telesales agents use American Amicable, and they probably agree that it's a pretty simple process.
Yep,
But for me, like I said, I just used it more as a convenience in that situation because the rest of my day I was going to be in another area. So I didn't want to drive an hour out there to see the person and an hour back. That was going to waste more time.
yep,
So then the rest of the day on Wednesday, I just ended up door knocking more leads, put a route together, and I wrote one more off of a door knock on Wednesday. That one was 522 annualized premium with American Amicable. So yeah, my Wednesday was pretty good. I think I ended up like 3,600 in premium. I was like at 5,200, I think, before yesterday, and then I wrote another 1,300 yesterday. So at about 6,500 for the week in those 3 days. Yesterday was another two Transamerica Express policies. Uh, and one of them was a direct express. The other one, it just kind of seemed like a good fit based off of, I think I tried to write them with AMAM and there was some pre-existing stuff popping up and ended up Transamerica just seemed to work better. So yeah, I
there
ended
you
up
go.
with two with them yesterday as well. 6,500 for the week. Wanted to hit 10,000 for the week. Not there yet. Probably not going to go out today. I have to do some continuing education this afternoon. I got this ethics course I have to sit around virtually and watch for 3 hours. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, your ethics is just so whacked, you have to take a class about
Oh
it.
man, it's such a pain.
They've
It's
been
all just a
watching your
money
videos.
making thing.
They say, "This
Yeah,
man has no ethics."
yeah. So they make in Illinois, you have to do like two open book tests, and then you have to take this ethics course.
Wow.
And yeah, my license is due for renewal in like 7 days, so I need to get it done.
There you go.
So
Well, still, that's
yeah,
nearly a $30,000 a month, run rate that you're on a 40 lead a week run rate. And if you, I was doing the math while you were chatting earlier. If you got 40 leads a week every single week, and we take that 62, it's basically 12 guaranteed appointments a week when all the numbers start to average themselves out. Over a 1 week period in this industry, we can lie to ourselves about everything. We can get excited or disappointed very easily. But when you average that out over a 4 and 6 week period, that's guaranteed 12 appointments a week. And if you could guarantee yourself 6,500 in production every single week, heck, I would take that, right?
yeah, most definitely. Um, no, not a bad week. Like I said, I think on 40 leads I can write more than that. But
We'll get
like
there.
I said, there were just a few that usually I'm not going to have an issue with. Like I said, the one right there that would have been another 1,200 premium. That would have put me at 7,700 for the week, or 7,800. And then I would have had, there was like another one too, same thing that I just couldn't overcome a few things. But uh, I won't give up on them. There's still a possibility I still may be able to get back and do something for the people in the future, but majority of the time that's not the case. Usually, if you don't write it when you're there, you can kind of almost put it in the pile of probably never going to see again.
Well
But
said.
you can do whatever that's why you really got to do whatever you can while you're there to try to close up the business because and I'll even tell them I'm only allowed one visit. They don't let me come back. Um, Sometimes it works, but other times they're just like, okay, well then I guess we'll just not do it then. So, but anyways, yeah, let's move on. We can get into the presentation and what I wanted to talk about today, Chris, because kind of going through a little bit of a pattern, I guess you could say, of step-by-step processes over the last few weeks, I would say, with our training from
Mhm.
agents kind of getting their business up and running to we went through like the presentation. We've talked about referrals. And to me, this is kind of like the next step after just focusing on referrals. And give me 1 second. I have a
Yeah,
couple
all good.
annoying dogs and I got to let one in.
Yeah, what I would say is if you're watching now, we got about 25 minutes to go. Drop a comment on something to do with your business that you want us to talk about. We've talked over the course of the last 4 weeks, as he said, from presentation to opportunity to resources to referrals to really all the things you need to get out there and get selling. So if you're somewhere in this space looking to get started in the industry, even if it isn't with us, take 4 hours of your weekend and watch back over the last couple of weeks on our YouTube page, on my Facebook page, or on Adam's. And I bet over those 4 hours on this weekend, if you don't have enough to go out there and make money, I mean, there's so much information we provided over the course of this last month.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, let's go ahead here. Like I said, beyond the leads, business growth strategies, just like I said, just other ways of generating business outside of just focusing on leads. Um, Leads is kind of what gets us out there. And that's what we're going to talk about real quick. Leads, they should be your main focus. You got to have that steady flow of leads, kind of broken record. I feel like we talk about that every week. But yeah, I mean, I would not be able to write any business if I didn't have any leads. You got to have that steady flow. And I mean, I have right now probably close to 2,000 leads sitting on my iPad, Chris, but I still get new leads each week. I'm always working on the new stuff, going back on the old stuff. You just got to kind of keep that moving. And I think one problem with a lot of agents is they focus on just that one lead order that they got, and they just they grind and grind and grind on those leads until they get a yes or no on every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many leads that I've just never even gotten a hold
You
of.
won't. You won't.
Yeah. You're just
Yeah.
never going to see the people, and you just kind of have to brush it off. You can't think about it. Oh man, that's like a waste of $40, Chris.
Nope. Nope. That's part of the game. It's an old
Yeah.
Don Francisco line. If you work leads to exhaustion, you're going to become exhausted yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
need fresh names every single Friday that can run through your preparation, go through the CRM, that your people can dial, that you can go out and work. If you don't have fresh people, and I said this on the Thursday training, you just have to say to yourself, raise your hand on the quarterfinal expense and say, this business is closed next week. Plain and simple. I'm unemployed and this business is closed if you don't have any new people to see next week.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a difference in a week. I mean, I've had weeks where I don't take leads and I still write business, but yeah, I mean, it's much more of a grind. This week, yeah, kind of getting me out there that first day, having a whole bunch of appointments set would not have been possible without me taking those 40 leads this week. So,
No.
recommended lead types, of course, my biggest recommendation is always the direct mail, especially for field sales. You're looking at usually on average a 4 to 5 week turnaround though. So, it does take a little bit of time for the direct mail to come in. Facebook, usually those can be generated within a few days. So a lot of agents will start with the Facebook, generate some business, earn some commissions, and then start kind of putting money into those lead drops on the direct mail, because it takes a little bit of time for those to come in. But in the meantime, at least you have the Facebook leads to work. So let's talk about referrals real quick. This really isn't going to be focused on referrals. We talked a lot about that with Aaron a few weeks ago. And if you did not watch, I definitely would recommend going back and either watching the training that we did or listening on the podcast. Definitely would recommend going back and listening or watching to learn about the referrals. But there's so many different ways to get referrals. My way of getting referrals is by solidifying the policy that I just wrote. Now, Mary, you may wonder how I get paid. She probably doesn't, but I'll tell her. I do get paid a commission by you taking out this policy and keeping it in force. So I'm glad you're serious about your decision today. Now, I also get paid by you giving me names of 5 people who not necessarily want to take out a policy, but who at least like to hear about what we talked about today. My whole mindset with that is I just help them with something that they need, and they're happy that I was able to help them. So now they're more willing to help me, but they're more willing to help me if they feel like I'm actually going to get something for it. Like just by giving me some names, it doesn't have as much of an effect as if they feel like I'm actually getting paid by getting some names. So sometimes they're more willing to give me some names that way. I also do use the Walmart gift cards in those scenarios. Talk about referrals, and if they want to give me 5 or 10 referrals, I'd be happy to give them a gift card. I even tell them, look at, one thing that's been working for me lately. I keep the gift, and I've talked about this on some of the past trainings, I think, but I keep the gift card on me, and I pull it out and I show it to them, and I tell them, let's say it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I tell them, I actually have an opening at 12 o'clock right now. Do you know anybody in the area that you could call and see if you could set an appointment with them? And if you do, I got this $25 gift card here, and I'll give it to you. And they'll get on the phone. They get excited. They'll get on the phone and they'll start calling people, see if they can help me, because they want that gift card. They want to see that gift card go from my hand to their hand. And that seems to work too. A good way to kind of get it. I figure, heck, $25, I would pay that for a lead. So if I'm giving them this gift card just because they set the appointment for me, I'd be more than happy to. So yeah, that's been working pretty well too. I'm just going to move past referrals. We talked enough about that a couple weeks ago. The next one would be group presentations and events. If you have a lead who lives in a high-rise apartment building or senior community, ask the building manager or event coordinator if you could schedule a time to educate the residents. It's a great way to reach a great number of people at one time. And this is something that I don't do enough of. Every time I do, I write at least 1 or 2 applications, and it only takes an hour. So, it might take a little bit more time in preparation, but, that would be the only thing really on this. It'd be more of like teaching agents the preparatory work to make it a success. Because it's more than just setting up the event. What are you going to say to all these people? What are you going to do to make sure people show up? And those are things that usually what I do, I'll put together like a flyer after I set up the event. I'll put together a flyer. I don't just print one flyer and have them posted in the building. I'll print like 200 of these flyers, and I get back in that building and I put them under everybody's door. And, I'll fold it up and I'll slip it under their door. And half the time they probably think it's like a bill or something. So they'll open it up and see what it is.
Oh man, I'm getting evicted.
Yeah.
Oh, good. No, they're just giving away food.
Every single apartment, every single apartment room, whatever, put the flyer under there. That's how they're going to find out about it. You could do even like bingo events. I've seen where agents have done that, where they'll go on Amazon and order like a bingo set. And that's a great way too to get more people there. Seniors love playing bingo. It's something to do. They love being involved and communicating with other people in the building. So it could get more people down there. And then I also generate like raffle tickets. I created some on Canva, and on the raffle ticket, I have the name, their address, their phone number, and then I have like a checkbox for amount of coverage that they would be interested in a quote for, like 5, 10, 15, 20,000. And so I buy like maybe 2 or 3 gift cards, and I let them know we're going to be doing some raffles. We'll be doing some prizes with the bingo. And so they all fill out the little card. To me, that's a lead. I'm creating leads with all these people that are there in the building. And then I raffle off the gift cards. So heck, I mean, the 20 leads I'm getting is costing me $25 in a gift card. And then I'll take those and, get back in the building. I'll door knock those, because the day that I'm there, I'm not going to write a lot of people. I might, Usually the way it goes, I go through the same presentation that I went through with you guys a couple weeks ago, the presentation that I use in the home. Rather than talking to one person, I'm just talking to a number of people. I go through the same presentation with a whole bunch of people, try to get them involved. I ask the same questions. People get to talk a little bit about it. It hits home with all of them. And then usually after the presentation, I just say, all right, I got a little bit of time. If anybody would be interested in a free quote while I'm here, I'm going to be sitting at the table back there. Come see me. And usually I'll bring like a case of water and maybe like a tray of cookies or something. And that's all you need. When you talk to the event coordinator, that's all they really care about. What are you bringing to these people? Are you feeding the people in the building? Sure. Yeah. I'm bringing some snacks and I'll bring some beverages. And that's all they really care about. There's one right now that I'm gonna schedule an event. I never even see the office open there. I'm just gonna put a flyer up in the building.
Do it. You're just gonna
yeah,
do
I'm
it.
just gonna do it. Yeah, seriously, I was thinking about it the other day. I was asking a lady in the building. She's like, "Yeah, we got a new lady, a new manager here. She's never here. She doesn't do anything for us." I'm like, perfect. I'm just gonna set it up myself.
Adam, you know what else is interesting? Side note here is these senior buildings, not nursing homes. Don't go do these in a nursing home. These buildings here are ripe for upgrade opportunities because they're infested with captive business. Because captive carriers are all about training their agents to do this type of stuff, to go to every building in a 100-mile radius and to just brand yourself and own the building and post the flyer and give the presentation. I have a theory, and I'm waiting for somebody in this industry to test me on it. I believe that an agent could actually survive in Baltimore City just doing senior centers and setting up a table in a building every different day. And I'll give them a great comp. We'll give them all the right carriers. Heck, you won't even have to get on leads. If you're in Baltimore City, there's probably 70 of these buildings. You could walk from one day to the next to a different building and just do senior presences. So if you're in an area out there and you know these buildings are out there and you don't have leads for the end of the week, or you need extra people to see, or you enjoy giving group presentations, contact us and we can really get into the weeds more specifically on how to make sure that's profitable for you.
Oh yeah, there's the one I was just talking about where the building manager's like never there. I feel like I could sit down there in like the community area. I could just sit down there all day. I could get there at 9 a.m. and I could sit there all day, and I guarantee you I would end up writing some business, even without leads, just sitting there. But I'm not going to do that. But if somebody anything, somebody could. But like I said, at least the senior center setting up the events. It's a great way. And you make yourself out to be the person for that building. Like you want to make yourself out to be the insurance man. Like when people know that they need to get a policy, oh yeah, Adam's our guy. He's the one that helps us here in this building. You kind of want to get to that point where you're the guy. And my dad was always really good at that. I mean, he would grab like a box of Dunkin' Donuts, and his whole theory was I could take this box of donuts and walk up to the apartment complex. Someone's going to let me in. So
absolutely.
Yeah. He'd bring the box of donuts in, he'd put it like in the little community center and with like some business cards with like a note, thank you for letting me serve those of you in the building. I've helped many people with their insurance, their life insurance, whatever. And he would get business that way. He kind of made himself out to be the insurance man in the building. And he'd walk in and everybody would know who he was. Hey, Mark, how you doing? So yeah, he was always really good at that. Doesn't do much of it anymore. He's kind of more he still does some business, but just kind of more at home on the phone and stuff like that. Let's see, moving forward here. Yeah, this is just kind of going through what we just talked about. Flea markets is another one. I've never done the flea market thing. I know other agents who have. You can pay to just set up a table at the flea market. And I think the best way to do it is to bring people with you, even your kids, to walk around and hand out stuff to people, because there's just a lot of people there. And you could do the same thing. You could do a raffle. And man, this dog being real annoying today.
You could absolutely find yourself in these situations if you choose to be. And if there's someone out there today saying to themselves, I don't have enough money for leads, for my rent, or my electric, just scroll back through this presentation. There's so many different ways you can get out there organically. It's something that Medicare agents are so good at, except they're terrified of leads because they live in this organic opportunity of group presentations and all the information, flea markets and branding and pharmacies and all that kind of stuff. So a combination of the two of them will get you in front of more people because Adam, like 90% of seniors in America will not fill out any form of marketing. They won't. 90% of seniors in America will not fill out a direct mail lead. They won't respond to TikTok advertising. They won't fill out a Facebook lead. So you're only marketing to 10% of our market when you're working leads. If you want to broach your way into that 90%, these kind of methodologies will get you there.
Yeah, even at like the flea market. I mean, heck, you get a fishbowl, you put it out there on the table. You throw some cards in there right away, and then people know. Yeah, we're doing a raffle. Anybody that walks past your table, they fill the thing out. You're creating leads. Like I said, kind of the same thing. Whether they're there or not, when you do the raffle, you have their information, and you can again just other ways of generating business outside of working leads, like what we're talking about today.
What if you gave away a fish instead of having a fish bowl? You ever give away fishes?
I've never given away a fish. No, my kids have won them at the carnival, and yeah, we won like 5 right there, of them. Again, I told you, Chris, we needed more pets. We got we got the turtles and the birds and the dogs, and we needed more. So we got 5 goldfish from a carnival, and they've done pretty well. That was back in like August or September. They're hanging in there.
Yeah, I go to a lot of not flea markets, but like different events out there in the community. And solar, which is like where all final expense agents go to die. No offense to solar agents, but there's no chargeback. So I'm selling solar. Solar is always at those events. They've got a table set up. They've got their pitch as you're walking by. And before you know it, they're asking you have any windows or doors that you need serviced? And before you know it, you're buying solar. So those guys that are on commission only aren't afraid to set up a booth or pay for a table at those kind of markets. And they're really not all that different from final expense agents at the core.
Hey, whatever it takes to generate business, let's see. And yeah, I got to fix this slide. But anyways, 3-week follow-up. It's just another way that you can generate business. We talk about going back to our policyholders, Chris, and usually people think, okay, well, I'll go back to this person in about 10 to 12 months and see where they're at, and I can add to their coverage. What we found, you don't have to wait that long. You could go back in 3 weeks after you wrote the initial policy. And we tested this, and I think, let's see, is it on here? I forget. Yeah, it was like 2 out of 5, I think, we were able to write additional business on within those 30 days. Because what happens is there's this whole trust factor where the first time you saw the person, they just met you. They don't really know you yet. They don't know for sure if everything you tell them is actually going to come true. But once they see that everything you told them came true, they trusted you. They fill out the application. They received the policy. The money was taken out. No more than what was supposed to come out came out of their account, and it came out at the right time, just like you told them it would. Now they trust you, maybe even a little bit more. So you go back 3-4 weeks later, and Mrs. Jones, I just want to let you know you pre-qualified for $35,000. I know we got to we started you with the 15. Did you want to take care of that today? And it's as simple as that. It's what do you have to lose by doing that? Especially if you're already in the area, what do you have to lose by going back a few weeks later and generating additional business? And like I said, 2 out of 5 we tested on average. We didn't just try it on 5 people. This is just something that, we had trained our agents to do. And that's what was happening. 2 out of 5, they were writing additional business. And a lot of times, some of the carriers, you can just call in. You might not even have to do a new application if it's within 30 days. You could just tell them, they decided they wanted to raise it to 25,000. You might just need to sign an amendment or something. And it would just be for the additional coverage. So, another little tip, if you're working an area and you see an oxygen and use sign on somebody's home Or if you see like a wheelchair ramp, doesn't have to be a lead that you're working, but you just, maybe you're working that area. Maybe you're walking up to the door of the house next door and you notice next door that there's a wheelchair ramp, or you notice like an oxygen in use sign. Go knock on their door. I mean, those are people too that, for one thing, they might not be the healthiest. They might just think they can't get any coverage because they're not healthy, because they're on oxygen. And we have carriers that can help them. So, go knock on those doors. And, hi, Mrs. Jones. My name is Adam Bersan. I'm a state licensed underwriter, and I was assigned to help disabled people in the area with a state approved plan that will pay up to $35,000 towards burial and funeral expenses. I noticed the oxygen sign, and I wanted to make sure someone had been by to go over these benefits with you. If no one has, I just need about 5 minutes to see what you qualify for. And, if the person already has coverage, great. You can even let them know that you do free policy reviews and see what you can do to maybe even help them there. Don't replace business if the client's close to being past a 2-year contestable period, especially in a scenario like that. Yeah. I mean, you're more than likely walking into modified business. So don't replace modified with modified.
Real quick side note, we'll find this interesting. I was in a presentation this week in Chester, PA, which is like the Romulan Federation neutral zone between Nick Frumpkin and I in this region. And I get into the home, help the guy with Medicare. He had just become Part A eligible like 3 days prior. The irony of being able to help him then and not the month before. And then we're going over his insurance, and he had an American Amicable policy from Nick Frumpkin. And the guy was in a wheelchair, no shirt. Thank God he had some underwear on, and I can see he only had like 2 toes. So I text Nick. I'm like, did he have all his toes when you saw him last? He's like, well, he told me he did. I didn't take his shoes off, so I wrote it. And that's our job. Our job is to field underwrite, not do a physical examination. Yeah. But the guy was sick as crap. The guy was so sick that I'm like, bro, just live like another 5 months. But I wasn't going to take him out of non-contestable coverage on the off chance I have to restart a 2-year waiting period for somebody who wasn't going to qualify for first state coverage. So just kind of keep those nuanced situations in mind, because these people die a lot quicker than we think.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked about that, I think last week, I rarely replace business unless it makes sense. The ones that I replace are usually when they had just taken out something within the last 6 months, maybe, or to like a year, maybe. I guess it really just depends on how confident I am in their health. Yeah. If there's some that are like kind of on the fence, you would know what I mean. Oh yeah. Others may or may not, but there's business. Sometimes you almost feel like it's on the fence. You could go one way or another. You think they could qualify for preferred, but you just don't know because they told you that they just have high blood pressure. Maybe they actually have congestive heart failure because they're taking like 3 different blood pressure medications and like a water pill and a blood thinner, and like maybe they can get first day coverage, but
maybe.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. Because I mean, there's a good chance that, heck, they don't make it past those 2 years. We just don't know. Maybe the other carrier would pay the claim. Maybe the other carrier would find something that I see while I'm sitting there that is kind of drawing a red flag. You just never know. So the closer I am to the person being past that 2-year contestable period, the higher likelihood that I'm not going to replace that business.
Fair enough.
That's just kind of how I am.
Any closing thoughts before we wrap up at 10 o'clock?
Yeah. Let's see a few more real quick here, Chris. This is simple. Just business cards. Don't be afraid to hand your business card out to people. The quote we say, the Wayne Gretzky quote. I don't know how half of my presentation is cut off here, but the Wayne Gretzky quote, we miss 100% of the shots that we never take. So why not talk to people about what you do? Why not make a goal of handing out 10 business cards every day while you're out in the field? If you have to stop at McDonald's to use the bathroom, talk to some people. If you got to stop at the gas station, talk to people. You got to stop at Walgreens for who knows, whatever. Little things like that. There's people around. Talk to them. Hand out your business card. What do you have to lose? What's the worst thing that could happen? They tell you, leave me alone. Okay. Or they could say, wow, thank you for that. We were actually, me and my husband or me and my wife were just talking about that sort of thing. Um, you just never know. But if you don't ask, you're never going to find out. I've said the same thing about door knocking and cold door knocking. What do you have to lose by knocking on a few doors around the lead of the people that you're there to see? What's the worst thing that can happen? They tell you no, or they tell you yes, and you make $500 or $1,000. So why not take that risk? The only thing it's costing you is a couple minutes by knocking on the door. Side to side and three across. Uh, Same thing. This is kind of like what I'm talking about when you're door knocking your leads, especially on, let's say that you just don't have a whole lot of leads. Maybe you only have 20 leads for the week and you know that you can run through those pretty quickly. Well, knock on the door, knock on the next door neighbor's door, each side, and then the three across the street. Same thing. You could even say, hey, I've been trying to reach Mary across the street. I've been having a lot of trouble catching up with her. You know if she's okay?
Oh, she's dead. She
Yeah, I mean,
died.
you can use it as a tool to get more information out of the people. You can also then let them know why you are in the area, and you can generate business from them as well. So, and then current policyholders, we talk about that, not going back and reviewing policies. I think it's important to do so. If anybody of you want a copy of my funeral cost inflation chart, I guess you can call it, let me know. That's what I use when I'm adding coverage. I talk about the fact that these funeral prices continue to go up and that, we can't just focus on what it costs right now. You got to look a little bit further down the road and make sure that you have enough coverage, not only for right now, but for 20 years from now. So, yeah, reach out to me if you want a copy of that, because that's something that's definitely useful. As you can see on here, it shows each year. And, we could be in what right now, year 2025, it shows like what the average cost is, around $12,000 to be buried. Mrs. Jones, I know you're 65 years old. You're going to live to be at least 85, don't you think? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to live to be at least 85. Okay. Well, then see, in the year 2045, the average cost of a funeral is going to be $27,000 or whatever. I know you have the 15,000. That's great if you die tomorrow. What happens when you die when you're 85, like you just told me? You're not going to have enough coverage. So we need to take care of that right now while we know you can get it. And so that's just a great way, in my opinion, to add on to coverage by talking about the inflation. And people understand inflation. Heck, the price of everything goes up, and they've experienced a lot of that the last 4 or 5 years. So, that's where they understand that price of things go up, just kind of part of life. You got to plan ahead and make sure that even in this sort of thing, that you have enough coverage for when you die in 20 years.
I'll say to them,
And yeah,
my last tip of the day, Adam, I'll say to them, let's just get this taken care of. Generally speaking, the most I found to be beneficial, 25,000. Miss Johnson, I wrote my dad a 25,000 and I still feel comfortable about it today. Let's just get that knocked out now so I never have to bother you about this again. Or you tell me you want it and I'm not able to help you in the future. And hey, it works. They don't want to be bothered again. They want to get as much as they need, and they know they don't have to get it again. And in many cases, that line works pretty well as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just go back and look at like the business that I wrote years ago, Chris, and I have so many policyholders that have $10,000 policies. Like that was plenty to be buried when I got in the business, and now it's not. Like there was a time, Chris, that I remember very rarely even writing a policy over 20,000 in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was always 10, 15,000 was just kind of where it was at. But that money just isn't going as far anymore. And
No.
I mean, now I feel like most of the time, if they tell me they want to be buried, I'm usually starting at 15,000 and going up from there, because I just don't feel like 10,000 is going to cut it. And if all they can handle is 10,000, I tell them, great. I can't guarantee you that that's going to be enough to pay for everything, but I'm sure your family will appreciate that you at least have that. And as time goes on, if you feel like maybe you can handle more, I'll get in touch with you in about a year and we can see what we could do about adding some coverage on then. But, like I've always talked about, I focus on the need and I focus on affordability. So however much I feel like they need, that's what I'm going to present. But then I also got to make sure they can afford it. If I got to drop it down and at least put them into something, something's better than not having anything at all. So just a couple more real quick. We might be going over here a little bit. I don't think we will be going over much. Cold door knocking. It's hard, but being broke is harder, is what I always say. So if you don't have leads and you're sitting around trying to figure out what am I going to do to make money, well, you have a better chance making money walking around a neighborhood and knocking on some doors and sitting around at home doing nothing. So that's up to you. Every 40 doors that you knock on should equal one sale. And you could knock on 20 doors in an hour. So that means you could easily knock 100 doors in a day. That should accumulate to, on average, 2.5 sales every day. So that would be what? Monday through Friday, Chris? I mean, you're looking at 10 to 12, 13 sales just by cold door knocking. And it's good exercise. You're going to average 1,600 in premium if you're writing 2 to 3 sales every day. Over 5 days, you're looking at 8,000 in premium, just door knocking without any leads. We're talking about zero expense outside of just gas to get out to the area that you're working. 50 weeks out of the year, you could make over $400,000 just cold door knocking. And that's where the first company I worked with, Chris, the owner of the company at the time, rest the soul now, he used to call me all the time. Every month he'd call me, hey, Adam, I know you work these leads a lot. Have you ever tried just doing some, he would always say, you ever tried doing some neighborhood enrollments? Mm-hmm. And I said, I really haven't a whole lot, but then I did. He said, start adding that into what you do every day, knock on some doors and you'll be surprised the extra income that you're going to earn. And he'd say, I'm going to call you next month and I'd like to hear about your results. So, it's pretty cool. I mean, this guy, we're talking about like the owner of a big company calling me. Jack London used to call me every month about that. And, but it was true, and back when this guy was an insurance agent that started his own company. And back then they didn't have leads. That's how they generated business, walking around doing neighborhood enrollments, knocking on doors. Like I said, it's the hard way to do it, but what's harder, walking around a neighborhood and doing whatever you can to get in a house to make a few sales, or being broke? I think being broke is much harder, but a great way to get out of it is getting in that one door, that one person that tells you, yes, we were just talking about this. Thank you so much for coming by. And it's going to, turn your day around or your week around. And even if you don't want to cold door knock full time, well, it'll at least help you generate some commissions to kind of get back on track with consistent lead orders. Order a card magnet. Simple, easy, might cost you $40. Put it on your car. If you're out driving around all day, why not let the world know why you're out there? And you can get some, you can earn some business that way as well. I don't have one on my car now, but I used to. And I would get phone calls of people calling me and I would generate some business. It was definitely worth the investment. So if you're full-time, just again, you're a billboard basically on your car driving around. Other businesses do it. Why not promote your own business? So for future trainings, go to adambersan.com. I'm in the process of updating my website too. Right. I'd say be on the lookout within the next week or two. Pretty good. You're going to be able to download a lot of this free stuff I talk about right on the website, nice. As well as lots of other cool stuff. So I'm real close to publishing. It'll be maybe even this afternoon. I may be able to get to that. But if my ethics course doesn't take too long. So person, go to adambersan.com and sign up for future trainings. And we'll put you on the list. We'll send you invites for the future trainings. We'd love to have. And if you have any suggestions for future trainings, something maybe that you're struggling with or you need help with, you're just not sure about, I feel like we cover most of the bases. But if we're leaving something out, I'd love to know. And then check out Unity Life Group as well. UnityLifeGroup.com/careers. Platforms for home sales, telesales, several different options when it comes to leads, weekly trainings as we're going through one right now. Lots of, ongoing support. We're here to help you when you need it. Lots of opportunities to build a team, multiply your income, and contracts to support even agency builders. So feel free to reach out. Be more than happy to have a conversation with you and see what we can do to help you in the future. So thanks again. I hope y'all have a great weekend and also a good start to your week next week. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. And thanks again.
Take care.